Well, it was quite an education, to say the least. A college junior tells police that she was raped. They declined to press charges. She files a complaint with campus cops and gets checked out by school doctors. And then she says she was urged to go away, to drop the complaint and pick up with her studies. Catherine Russell is the face of a case that became a much wider investigation by the Center for Public Integrity. And the group found this is not an isolated outrage. Here's some stats. According to the Justice Department, 1 in 5 women on college campuses will become a victim of rape or attempted rape, and about 95% remain silent, never even reporting the crime. Joining us from New York, Paul Callan, a defense attorney and former prosecutor, and also Kristen Lombardi. She's the investigative reporter who dug into all of this for the Center for Public Integrity. And I got to tell you, Kristen, great job. We were pretty amazed by this story, and of course wanted to talk to you more about it. We just set up Catherine's story, Catherine Russell, and what she says happened to her. But she wasn't alone. What shocked you the most as you investigated this story for 9 months?
Thank you, Kara, for having me on. I think one of the things that shocked us the most about this is just, you know, the level of underreporting that goes on about this this problem. I mean, we found overwhelmingly many students don't report simply because they don't identify what happened to them as sexual assault, and to me that was pretty striking. But when they do report, even if it's delayed and it's late reporting, we found that institutional obstacles really compound the problem. For instance, a lot of the students that we interviewed described situations where administrators discouraged them from pursuing rape complaints within the college judicial system. They actively, discouraged them by presenting the on-campus judicial process as, a really unappealing, unattractive process, something that they were going to beat their heads against the wall with. And so students often just said, why bother? Why go forward? And then for students who actually did go through a judicial process, they really described a process that was shrouded in secrecy. We heard from students, really mystifying disciplinary proceedings where they were shut out of the process. They filed a complaint, but they didn't necessarily know what happened during the adjudicatory process. All they knew were the outcomes. Or we talked with students who were sort of, they believe, steered into confidential mediations with the accused student and their alleged perpetrator, where everything that was said was, confidential and not to be used in any further judicial proceeding. And we also talked to students that, submitted to policies that acted as gag orders, essentially, where they had to keep quiet about certain details of their cases. All right, here's
what I find interesting. Kristen, as I'm listening to you, I'm thinking about all the, page by page by page in this investigation where I was reading all this thinking, oh my gosh, why is all this happening? What's the law? What law protects the university? What law protects the students? And Paul, that's where I want to bring you in because, administrators of these universities say, oh, we're just following the law. I mean, this is privacy issue. Yet you've got students saying, no way. They just want to keep it a secret. And that's what they were telling me to do. What does, FERPA, the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, I know plays a part here. Explain how that kind of creates a gray area here for both victim and also university and its take.
Well, the universities are in a complicated position. They have this FERPA law that you've just cited to, which basically preserves confidentiality. That's the law that if you send your kid off to college and you want to see his report card, the parents can't even look at the report card because FERPA says unless the student signs a consent form, his records are private. So they're looking at that law and they're saying FERPA prohibits us from revealing publicly what goes on in some of these disciplinary proceedings. Now, there are 2 other laws that are in play here. One is called Title IX, which basically, among other things, prevents discrimination against women. And the third is the Clery Act, which requires colleges to report crimes, particularly violent crimes that occur on their campuses. So the colleges are trying to balance all of these laws and the rights of their students, and they've come up with what is the best thing for them, and that is let's keep it secret. Because what college wants to report that rapes are taking place on college campuses? So you know the pressure is going to be there to try to underreport or not report the existence of sexual assaults on campuses. And that's where the colleges have been going with this traditionally.
So taking this all into consideration, if my daughter is in college right now and she's raped, what should she do? I mean, I would advise her, call the police department, tell them what happened, file a report, and pursue this as any other woman would do if raped. I mean, I guess, do they have to deal with the university? Do they have to deal with university police? Do they have to go through the university system, or can they just call the police department?
They can absolutely just call the cops. I mean, that's what the law allows. And I think what you have to remember with respect to this study is focusing on cases, a lot of cases, where women have gone to the police and the police have found, you know, there's a problem with the case and they don't want to prosecute the case. So they then turn back to the university and they get involved in university disciplinary proceedings and mediation proceedings. These proceedings all have special rules. They have privacy rules. And these women are finding they don't get satisfaction on campus. But they can pursue criminal charges, and they also can pursue civil charges. You could sue somebody civilly for money damages if you were raped. So these women, these young college students, there are alternatives available to them if the colleges don't give them satisfaction.
And Kristen, just to button it up, you actually name universities in your report. You talk about some of the biggest offenders and the fact that these deans leave these universities, go on to other universities. So have you seen any result yet from your investigation that may force universities to think more about the victim's rights and doing what's right for them versus keeping a secret?
Well, certainly there's been a lot of attention to the series, and that's great because it's raising the awareness of the problem. One thing I would like to point out is that a lot of students who go through the process who may feel that the process, they may feel unsatisfied by the school's response, I would encourage them to look at the education department. The education department enforces both Title IX and the Clery Act, and there are complaint processes that are available to students who've gone through a process on their campuses, where education department investigators will investigate a school's policies and procedures and make sure they're in compliance with the law at the very least. It's not going to overturn, a verdict on campus, but at least you will be able to be ensuring that your school is implementing policies and procedures that are in compliance with the law. So I would encourage students to look at that as well.
Button it up there, Paul.
Kara, I wanted to add one other thing, and I think you have to remember this. The Duke case is a reminder of this. The men who are charged with these crimes also have rights in this process as well. And, if a false complaint is made against a male student of this kind of conduct, it can be devastating to his entire life. So you need a system that encourages fairness to both men and women. And I think we have to remember there are two sides to this equation.
Point well made. Paul Callan, thanks so much. And Kristen Lombardi, great reporting. We're actually going to link all of you, you bet, to Kristen Lombardi's report on our blog. If you want to read the entire investigation, cnn.com/Kira. You can check back after the show for that information. We encourage you to read it, especially if you have a daughter in college.